Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast, a show where normal guys talk about the films that they love. And here are your hosts, Bryce Thompson, Brian Hammond, and Cody Ryrie. Now get ready, because the show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Valhalla Filmcast. I am Bryce Thompson. I'm here with Cody Ryrie and Brian Hammond.
Hello there.
Hello.
Today we are talking about Pixar, and more specifically the best Pixar movies that the studio has released. If you've been listening to the Filmcast, you kind of know that we have a way of doing it, of listing our best ways with 3 questions. The first question is one movie to tell someone who maybe doesn't know too much about the director, the actor, the studio, doesn't know too much about the movies that they've released. The next one would be the objectively the best movie that they have made, and then the third is the personal favorite movie. And so we're going to go through these 3 different questions, answer them, talk about them, and then by that, you can kind of come to a conclusion of what are the best movies that they've ever made. So I'll go ahead and start it off with the one movie to tell someone who the best artistic things that they do. One movie to tell who they are. My pick is Toy Story. The reason I picked that is it's a classic, and it's just really simple. It's a pretty simple, basic movie. They just kind of put it all out there on the table for you. You have your basic characters, and you have your basic problem, and they solve it. And for someone who's just trying to get into Pixar, that's the best way, because it's kind of how everyone kind of got into Pixar was through Toy Story. And so, why not stick with what you know? And so, I think the only one that's rated higher than Toy Story is Toy Story 2. Am I correct? Like on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, 2 or 3. I'm not sure which.
So, if you don't want to start in the middle of a series, stick with the first one. So that's what I think. Go for it, Brian.
Well, this is going to be a short show. I chose Toy Story as well. The reason for that is because it's just the first one, and it was such a huge success. It really set Pixar and Disney up for an incredible, superhuman, superpowered team that just destroyed the box office. Not so much with Toy Story, but the ones to come. Although it did do well in the box office, I was just looking at it. It kind of pales to some of the other huge behemoths out there. But it's just a great story that touches with you have human emotions between Buzz Lightyear and being left alone, feeling neglected. It just really, I think everyone can kind of relate to it, and it being the very first entry into the film world, it's just that is for sure the one I would recommend to anyone that wants to get involved. So,
Cody?
Okay, you're both wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. No, the first Toy Story is a good pick, obviously, for the reasons that you've given. But I do think that it's lacking something that would become a really big part of all of Pixar's subsequent movies. The closest thing it gets to it is, like you mentioned, Brian, Buzz Lightyear's realization that he's a toy. But later on, Pixar would really get into some deep, tragic, emotional material. And we're talking things like the death of Nemo's mom early on, and in Toy Story 3 when they're all gonna die in a fiery pit together, and in Wall-E when he forgets who he is, and it's just really gut-wrenching things. And even in Toy Story 2, when we hear the story about how Jessie got left and abandoned by her owner, these really kind of serious, gut-wrenching stuff. I think you only get a hint of it in Toy Story. I think they really go for it later on, and that's why I picked Finding Nemo as my movie that kind of encapsulates everything. It's funny because I don't really like Finding Nemo all that much.
Yeah.
But as I was going through, I was like, wow, it really has that tragedy element. It's very character-driven, which is what they're all about, and also has some really, really gorgeous visuals that are still based in reality. Also, humor that comes out of something based in reality. In this case, it's making sharks into wannabe vegetarians and things. So there's this thing that they do where they base a lot of their humor with just off of reality. And I think that one of the best examples of that is in Finding Nemo, as well as, like I said, all the gorgeous underwater animation. So that's why I would pick Finding Nemo over Toy Story as one that really represents everything they're about.
I can agree with that. I think that my only, defense of Toy Story would just be that it's just so simple. It's easy to watch. You don't have to learn too much about it, and you can keep going from there. And you can do that with pretty much any Pixar movie, but to defend my pick, that's what I'll say.
Gotcha.
Moving on to the the best movie that we believe they have made. Not personal best, but just based on merit and the technical aspects and stuff like that. The best movie that they have made. I'm going to go with a Pixar short.
Oh, okay.
That was released this year.
What?
It was released in front of Finding Dory. It's called Piper. And it's about this little... I don't even know what they're called. It's a sandpiper, so that's why it's called Piper. But it's about this little baby sandpiper, and you start out... for those who haven't seen it, since it just came out, but you start out with in the morning, and all the sandpipers are going out to collect food to eat, and Piper walks up to the mom and opens its mouth and is like, "Yo, feed me, I'm hungry," and the mom's like, "No, you got to go, find food yourself." And so the mom kind of shows. And so, what they do is the water will wash out back to sea, and all the, shells will be there to pick and to get what's inside of it. But when the waves come in, they have to run away so they don't get swept away. And so, this little bird doesn't know this and gets splashed by the wave and then is petrified by it. She's like, "I don't want to go by the water. It's scary." But then, she eventually learns and just is taught that you can do more than you think you can if you just practice and put your mind to it. And I think it's the best movie that they have made, just based on the fact that it's really neat. It's a really neat looking movie. It's actually kind of hard to tell that it's animated, I thought anyways. It looks pretty real to me. I also think that the lessons that it teaches are very good in teaching, little kids that just because you're little, just because you might not know as much as your parents or as much as, people, adults, doesn't mean that you can't go out and, and do stuff, that you can't, take care of yourself. And I think that's good, because I think it's good to be independent. It's also good to have, mentors and people to teach you and stuff, but it's also good to learn different skills and, to be the best that you can be. And yeah, I just think it's really neat. It's really interesting. It's one of my most favorites as well.
See, I feel like that now we should. This is last minute, so maybe not. But maybe in the future, when we discuss Pixar or Disney, we could each pick a objectively best short and objectively best feature length, so that you'd have to. Because I feel like pinning you down and making you pick a longer one, but I can't really argue because I haven't seen it. So it's hard for me to...
Yeah, oh, well, okay. That's my short. Objectively best. Go, Brian, and then I'll answer that question.
All right. This one was kind of tied for me, but one kind of pulled up a little bit. No pun intended, by the way. Okay. Let's see. The tie was between Toy Story 3 and Up. I'm really battled about these two because I think Up, for me, if I were to be objective about it, is probably the better film between the two, and I think it's because of I'm guessing the melodramatic moments, possibly. And just the overall story that's told. I don't know. Can I do a tie on this one?
I think you just did.
Yeah, I did it. Okay. So they were both nominated for, the same amount of, 5 Oscars. They both won Best Animated Feature. Both nominated. The only two ever nominated for Best Picture. Not animated, just the overall Best Picture.
Wait, was Toy Story 3 nominated for Best Picture?
Yeah, it was nominated for Best Picture.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so that's why objectively I'm saying it's the best. Have you guys seen first of all, are you Walking Dead fans?
I saw the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
That was it.
Did you? Well, they've put this. Someone's put together this little mashup video of Toy Story 3 and how it is. Walking Dead is just exactly the plot of Toy Story 3. So for all of you fans out there, whether it be Toy Story fans or Walking Dead fans, you need to look it up. It's really clever and pretty convincing. But other than the critical acclaim and then the sentimental side of Up, I really don't have anything to back up my objective opinion, but that's what I'm sticking with. So,
okay.
All right. So to answer your question, that you're forcing me to answer, I still don't think that this movie is better than my previous mentioned movie, but I'll say Monsters, Inc.
Okay.
The reason is I like what it shows. Now with Pixar movies, when I think of like a movie that is best, is I kind of look. You have to look at like what their audience is, and obviously their audience is family and kids. And I think that Monsters Inc. I like how it shows the friendship, and it shows that Mike and Sully, they have their competition. Sometimes they don't agree with each other, but they're still friends, and they can get through, anything that is thrown at them. So that kind of would teach a kid, just because, you have a hard time or your friend does something that you don't like, doesn't mean that you're not friends anymore. It doesn't mean that you can't work on your relationships. And I think that that's another thing that this movie shows that is really good is it shows, how relationships, they're throughout the whole thing. You have the bad guy, the bully, you have Sully and the little girl, and you have Mike and Sully and, Mike's conflicts and Sully's conflicts, and it kind of can teach you, how to deal with all those different relationships and conflicts. And also, I also think that Monsters Inc. 2, Monsters U, does that as well. Does that too. But so yeah, Monsters Inc. if I had to pick a full length movie.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, go for it, Cody.
Okay, well, I'll comment on Monsters Inc. real quick. I think that's a great pick. It's not mine, but I think it's a great pick because of the little relationship, like you said, between the two, but also with the little girl. Mm-hmm. I worked at the movie theater when that came out, and I would walk in towards the end because I'm supposed to clean up popcorn and stuff. And the very end, when Sully opens the door and the little girl says "Kitty," like I would walk in on that, and there'd be people like weeping in the theater.
I know. It's like just thinking about it right now, we almost might be starting a Man Cry 2 show.
That's right. It was incredible. It was every time, and also special props for a movie that's that good with relationships and emotions, having one of the coolest action chase scenes when they go into the door room and they're going to all the different bedrooms. That's so cool.
That's true. That's
some awesome stuff. So a little shout out to Monsters Inc. The one that I picked as objectively the best is The Incredibles, and I'll tell you why. I think that The Incredibles is the one movie in their filmography that could have been a regular film, and I think when you watch it as a regular movie. Now, there are some things in it that take advantage of the medium of animation. Don't get me wrong, but I think you take The Incredibles and you can stack it up against any of the huge superhero movies that we're seeing now, and you can say, which ones have better relationships? Well, none of them. Which have better action scenes? Well, they're all as good. And I think artistically they took a step forward with The Incredibles because it was the first time. All the other Pixar films up to this point, what they would do is they'd animate the environment. So like you got the whole room animated plus all the characters, and then you kind of pick where your camera's going to go after. For The Incredibles, they storyboarded this thing and they only animated what they needed from the one angle. And so it was a way to make the scenes pop more. You could add more detail and information with less time. And I really feel like that was a huge step forward in their movies being a lot more visually interesting. Instead of just being, we're computer animated and that's what we look like. It really had a distinct style, and it had all those moments you come to expect from an action movie and from a drama and from a coming-of-age tale. It just has everything, and I think you can step back and say, this is the best work they've ever done.
Yeah. I think that it's definitely very hard to say which movie is the best Pixar movie. Just because, like we just demonstrated, that all of them discuss different things, and when they talk about them, they do a very good job at doing it. Like you could put, Toy Story 3 and Monsters Inc., head to head, and to discuss, bad guys, people being rude, and they're very even, and so
yeah,
they do good at their job. They do good at their job. So to round it off, your personal favorite, mine is Toy Story, just because going back to the beginning, it's where I started. Watched it a billion times. Fell in love with Woody and Buzz, and while I do love the other Pixar movies, Toy Story is just on the top, and it's difficult to move it.
Hey, quick question.
From that spot.
How old were you, Bryce, when Toy Story came out? It came out in 95, so how old were you in 95?
I was 4.
So you probably didn't see it in the theater.
No. But I did see it on VHS.
Over and over, yeah,
tape.
I'm sure.
Yes.
My
Loved it.
goodness.
Gotcha.
Sid scared the...
Don't ask me the same question, Cody, please. Because I was done, graduated, and moving on with my life.
Did you take your kids to it, Brian? Is that...
No, I was actually literally just graduated, so I was not married at the time.
I was 11 when it came out. So I do remember going to see it in the theater as a kid. Perfect age.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Favorite Pixar?
My personal favorite, we've already kind of talked of in depth, is Monsters, Inc. This came out in 2001, after my first two children were born. And, you know, I guess I'm kind of a sentimental guy, a kind of a big baby. But, you know, I do have very fond memories of my kids being, you know, I went and saw this. I bought it as soon as it came out, and they would just watch this on repeat over and over with other titles as well. But, you know, this is just one that I still remember my daughter's poster hanging on her wall. And it's such a good story, such a good tug on the heartstrings, and I like that. I like the dynamic between the friends, Sully and the other guy.
Mike Wazowski.
Yes, thank you. And the voices, just fun voices. Everything was just great. I liked it. So that's probably the one I've seen the most as well, and so that's another good gauge. So there you go.
Cody.
Okay, well, I'm going to pull a Bryce on this one, and I'm going to pick a short and a feature length as my favorite. First, the short that I picked is one called Day and Night.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this. Yes,
I feel bad, but I don't remember which Pixar movie it came before. But because I watched the shorts on a disc all by themselves. So, but it was
Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3. Okay, this is fantastic short about day is personified as a cartoon character and night, and when you look through them, you see day and night inside their silhouettes, and it's hard to even describe. Actually, it's so creative, it loses something in the description. But as they kind of at first fear each other and hate the differences, then they come to see and appreciate their differences and are more united. And it's one of the most, interesting and thought-provoking short animations I've ever seen, because it applies to how we relate to people who disagree with us on fundamental things like politics or religion or anything. That at a certain point we would be better off if we could appreciate those differences instead of fearing and hating them. And it does that so eloquently and so creatively. So that's one favorite. My favorite feature length is Ratatouille. Actually, it's like you were saying, Brian, Ratatouille is the one I've seen the most, and that's a pretty good gauge of which one you find the most interesting. I think that Remy the rat, his journey, is such an interesting reflection of what an artist goes through. I mean, he's a cook, but you can apply all those things to a writer or a filmmaker or anybody who tries to do something creative, and they have people who don't agree with them. They have people who help them out. They have people who think they shouldn't be trying that, and they have ups and downs, and all those things are portrayed so interestingly, so creatively. I love the look of the film. In Paris, the whole thing's in Paris. They have animated food that looks like you want to eat it, even though it's made of pixels. It's just, for me, again, it's kind of that indefinable, it's my personal favorite because it is. But I love Ratatouille, and we'll watch that one almost any time that it's on.
Cool.
All right.
Can
yes.
I interject some trivia just because I like to put Cody on the spot? Joss Whedon has a screenplay credit to a Pixar film. Name it.
Toy Story.
Dang it. I thought I had it.
Okay, I'll tell you I'll tell you some of the things that Joss Whedon wrote in Toy Story, if you'd like to know. You can find them in his biography.
You're so pretentious.
I don't think you can be pretentious about Joss Whedon. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That's true.
But There was actually, okay, just for the sake of time, I'll tell you one joke that he wrote that did not make it into the movie because it was considered inappropriate by the director. There was a moment when Mr. Potato Head took an eye out and looked under Bo Peep's skirt with it. And
that's amazing.
That was written by Joss Whedon, but
awesome.
ejected by John Lasseter before it made the finished film.
Does it exist then in like deleted scenes, but Disney would never put it out probably, huh?
No, it never got that far. It was pitched in a story meeting, and they were all like, kibosh, squash. So, there you go. And he also talks about how he loves getting royalties from Toy Story pretty consistently. It's a moneymaker.
Really?
Yeah, I bet. All right. Well, anything else before we end this thing?
That's it for me.
All right. We hope you enjoyed our Pixar show. If there's anything that you would like to add, your favorite movie, or anything like that, please let us know. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us anywhere you can. This has been the Valhalla Filmcast. I am Bryce Thompson.
I am Brian Hammond.
And I'm Cody Rary.
The following views, opinions, and commentary are the sole property of the Valhalla Filmcast. Any unauthorized reproduction without prior consent is prohibited. Any incidental music, audio clips, or film trailers are used for the sole purpose of film criticism and commentary as allowed under the Fair Use Act.